Joining us for an update on what is being done ahead of Hurricane Milton is Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Governor, thank you for being with us tonight. And we know time is running out to prepare and to evacuate. What is the latest this evening?
Well, people still can evacuate now, and we're stressing that you don't have to get on the interstate and drive hundreds of miles. There are shelters in every county, multiple shelters in these big counties that are inland, that are going to be protected from storm surge, that are going to be hurricane-proof for the wind, and you can do that. You can do that now. You probably can still go first thing in the morning, but people just need to be prepared as the day goes on. I know it's slowed down a little bit. I know we're now looking at maybe Thursday early in the morning. Maybe it'll slow some more, but just be prepared tomorrow to start seeing some types of effects that as we get closer to landfall, it's going to come a point where it's just going to be too dangerous. Now, we had big evacuations out of the Tampa Bay area on Monday. We had Interstate 75, I-4. We opened the shoulders, expanded the traffic, but it was slow. Those are slow roads anyways. It's about 20 to 25 miles an hour. Overnight, it was better. Those have actually done better today, and what we've seen now is Alligator Alley going from Southwest Florida over to Southeast Florida. That was about 150% of the normal traffic. And I think what that is, and certainly what I've heard from people down in Southwest Florida, they remember Charlie. The whole focus was on Tampa Bay, and then Charlie ended up going further south. They remember Ian. I was in the Pinellas County Emergency Operations Center 48 hours prior to landfall. We were talking about worst case scenario for Tampa Bay and ended up hitting Fort Myers. So I think the people in Southwest Florida know these things can bend further south. They also know that even if they're 50, 60 miles south of where it goes, that's going to produce serious surge as well. It's not like it's only where the eye wall makes landfall. So I think you see a lot of that. Now, we have over 40,000 power utility workers staged in the state of Florida. We have major logistical places where we also have supplies and other personnel staged from the state of Florida. We have more search and rescue and National Guard assets that are being brought to bear on this storm than any storm in Florida history. And part of this is because we have game planned out what a major hurricane going into Tampa Bay would look like. I would also say don't get too wedded to this track. It could easily bump up 30, 40, 50 miles to the north. I don't know if the models are saying that now, but don't think because you're on the north side of this that somehow, you shouldn't be evacuating if you're in a zone. We just don't know. There's a lot of uncertainty here, but we have a lot of heft that's ready to go and to help people. Obviously, the most important thing is do what you need to do to protect yourself and your family. We're going to see major damage to homes. We're going to see damage to infrastructure, damage to businesses. That's tough to see. It's going to be heart-wrenching to see some of this, but we can rebuild that. If you stay with 10, 15 feet of storm surge and you die, we can't unring that bell.
Governor, we know from the last hurricane that the crews have been working tirelessly to clean up some of the debris. How is that going?
Well, I think most of your viewers know that the local governments have these debris contracts, cities and counties, and when the storms come, they execute that. So there was a lot of private vendors. There were some problems with that. Some of the vendors got more money going to North Carolina or Georgia, and so you had all this debris that was piling up. Once there was a storm that was starting to form, we said, okay, it's not the state's responsibility, but I'm going to take all the assets that we have in our Department of Transportation, other agencies, we're going to surge them all to the west coast of Florida, and we're going to do a 24/7 debris mission. So I mandated all landfills are open round the clock, not just for these state trucks that are now in the fight, but the private contractors who have the primary responsibility, as well as private citizens who can go in and do it. So we've been able to move an incredible amount of debris over the last 48 plus hours. We're continuing that mission right now, all the way through the night. We're going to continue doing it on Wednesday up until the point it's no longer safe to do so. So I think that there was just so much debris. I don't know that you're going to be able to get all of it, but because the state has taken this extraordinary step to marshal our resources, take them off other jobs that they have as part of their normal course of business, and surge over 300 trucks, I think we've done about 2,000 loads, massive loads of debris in just over 48 hours. It's incredible.
Governor, what else is top of the list tomorrow?
I think it's just safety. I think when you have a storm that's this strong, we're praying that it weakens. But even if it ends up being a Category 3 and weakens down to that, that's going to produce massive surge. It didn't like that's something you're going to want to mess with. That can produce 10, 15 feet easy of storm surge, particularly in these areas where it comes along shore. That is not something you want to contend with. I know some of the hurricanes in the past that have gone in south of Sarasota have done damage, may not have had storm surge at that level. If it does hit in that area, you're going to see inordinate amount of storm surge, regardless of how fast or strong the hurricane actually is. Then we just are stressing that there's a lot of focus on the surge, and rightfully so, because that is the most hazardous. I mean, most places in Florida are going to be able to handle inland hurricane force winds with our building code as long as you're not in a flood zone. But this is still going to be hazardous all the way across the state. It's going to exit on the east coast of Florida. It's going to still be a hurricane, most likely. So folks on the east coast and in the center part of the state, you know, they need to make their preparations and have their plan executed. And you should assume that there's going to be damage. You may not get 15 feet of storm surge on the east coast of Florida, but you're going to get some storm surge. You're going to get some erosion to the coast. There's going to be a lot of damage to property. You're going to see major power outages all along the east coast of Florida. So this is not just a West Coast event.
And Governor, we predict the weather. The forecasts are getting better and better, but what is difficult is to try to predict how the weather is going to interact with objects, with people's homes and businesses, nor do we predict how people are going to respond to the weather and what happens. What's the biggest concern, knowing there's so many variables and unknowns yet to unfold? What's the biggest concern going forward, either during or after the storm?
Well, when this storm first started forming, the cone was, was out there a few days. It was basically the entire Florida peninsula in terms of where the storm could ultimately make landfall. And I just stress that there's going to be a lot of Floridians who are in evacuation zones who end up evacuating, who in hindsight would not have had to because the storm may take a different track. And so I hope that people aren't wedded too much to the forecast. There are wobbles on this thing. 30, 40, 50 miles one way or the other can make a huge impact. So if you are in an evacuation zone and you haven't evacuated, do it now. You still got time today. You can go to a shelter. If you do get on the road, just be prepared to have a plan to be able to do that. If you wait till tomorrow morning, it starts to get a little hazardous. I definitely think people first thing in the morning can go to local shelters, no problem. But if you talk about getting on the road beyond that, I just don't want people to get caught in really bad traffic and get stranded when there's bad weather. So, my concern is just when you have a forecast, even the best forecast that you can do, when you have an entire peninsula stretching hundreds of miles, there's going to be some people that may decide, hey, I'm looking at the forecast. I don't think it's going to come here. It could hit north of Tampa still. It could hit south of Tampa. It could hit south of Venice. It could hit in Charlotte County. All those are still live possibilities.
Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.